La mami se pone contenta. Esta Willy ya cumplió los 30. Después de las 12 no los cuenta. No la llamen en el jangueo si no quiere que mienta. Estoy escuchando el número 1 en venta. Por eso con nosotros nadie inventa. Me siento como un bicho de los 90. Lo tengo parado, ven porque lo siento. Dale mami, pégate, tírate. Si me miras mucho sabes que voy a besarte. Dale mami, pégate, tírate. Si te ves me la agarras, no se voy a llevarte. Mira, puñeta, no me quiten el pepe. Mami, yo sé que tú te vuelves loca cuando el perreo te azota, pero obliga tú te acuerdas de mí si me ves por ahí. Mami, yo sé que tú te vuelves loca cuando el perreo te azota, pero obliga tú te acuerdas de mí de cuando te di. Perreo, baby, tra, baby, en la disco, baby, vamos a darle, baby, hasta abajo, baby, no te quites, baby, vaya que yo, baby, y yo solo, baby, perreo, baby, tra, baby, en la disco, baby, pero no te, baby, aquí mismo, baby, delante de tu, baby, te compro la verde, y también el baby, te doy llego bailando, mami, estoy triste, ey, tráete tu vesti, que a la torre le bajamos el panty, tiene 20 litros de waiting, te lo tiran por la body waiting, cambiando la coña desde los 20, anda causando, no está rompe la calle, siempre te sale, mami, tú estás fit, por la muerte los abdominales, rompe la calle, siempre te sale. Me gusta porque tú y yo somos iguales. Siempre queremos perreo. Y yo estamos envueltos en el bello perreo. Cuando nos ponen perreo. Ay, no me ronques cabrones porque no los veo. Estás escuchando música de Puerto Rico, cabrón. Nosotros nos criamos escuchando y cantando esto. En los caseríos, en los barrios, desde los 90 hasta el 2000 por siempre. Ya ando con el mejor de todos los tiempos, Tiny. Y yo no tengo que roncar, ustedes saben ya. Welcome in, everybody. Welcome to the Radical Roots Rundown. I hope everyone had a great Martin Luther King Day weekend, long weekend. I don't know what most of you guys did. And if most of you guys know why we have a reason for the season, we talked about this on our episode on Sunday. Sorry if my voice is a little bit hoarse. Kids, you know, they're a cesspool of germs. They brought that stuff home to me and the mom, and we're both kind of getting over it. So if I have this deep, velvety voice, understand it's not because I'm trying to get all Barry White on me. I'm just trying to convalesce and be good for you guys as we talk about the crazy shit that's happening. But yes, it was Martin Luther King Day on Monday, yesterday, the 19th. We celebrate that the third Sunday of every January. Passed under Ronald Reagan, under duress, voted against by John McCain. I just like to remind people about that stuff. Oh my goodness, sorry guys. My hat, I'm trying to get it all together. You know, it's just sickness and holidays and technology is not my strong suit. But no, Martin Luther King Day holiday was yesterday, and there was a lot of quotes going around. We knew they were going to be whitewashed. We knew the Republicans. And I think this year they're actually kind of dropping the pretense that they actually care about MLK. I think they're just like, no, we think he's a bad guy. We think he's a piece of shit. He cheated on his wife, so he's a piece of shit. Meanwhile, we voted for a guy who had sex with a porn star right after his wife gave birth to her son, and actually he hasn't been faithful to any wives, and he walks into children's dressing rooms and he grabs them by the pussy. But we're mad at your civil rights guy had to be perfect. Sorry, libs. And
That's not the game. And these are always the takes they think make them feel good, because as long as they think that everything needs to be adversarial. But one thing that Martin taught us was that he is not meant to appease those in power, those who are of the status quo. And that's what he was here for. Did he have flaws? Yes, we all have flaws. I've talked about my flaws, my alcoholism, my infidelity back in the day, my penchant for, things that probably are vices to some, right? So, like, none of us are perfect. And Martin Luther King was not excluded from that. But at the end of the day, we have a holiday that's meant for us to give reverence to the man. There's a reason why I think we have a Martin Luther King Day, not a Malcolm X Day as well, because we whitewash and sanitize and flatten, I'll say Michael King, which is his original name, Martin Luther King, to be really palatable to white supremacy. That this is a man, he only said two things about having a dream and about the content of your character and the color of your skin. He didn't say anything else, which is just patently untrue. And those of us that do study the Black radical tradition, we understand who Martin was in all his facets, how important his brother was, and why that when he passed, it was very important to the Black community, because he was someone who was trying to do it in a way that really amplified, our dignity, but also really point out the hypocrisy of the system, right? And tying together not just racism, but capitalism and militarism and materialism. Um, and I have a lot of respect for Martin Luther King. I'm not one of those guys that's like I'm more Malcolm X than Martin Luther King. I think we have to have space for every single person that is willing to speak about the liberation of Black people, because once Black people are free, everyone is free. Once Black people are free, women are free. White women are free. Once Black people are free, LGBTQ people are free. Once Black people are free, Indigenous people are free. Once Black people are free, Latino people are free. Once Black people are free, disabled people are free. Once Black people are free, immigrants are free, right? So it's important to understand that the Black liberation cause in the 50s and 60s was, one, led by young people. We forget when he was down in Birmingham, Alabama, he was only 26. He was only 26 years old when he was doing the boycotts, and the C Day, when they had the children get sprayed by water hoses, Bull Connor. He was 26, 27 years old. That was the age I had when I had my son, which I couldn't believe. I couldn't imagine. I couldn't imagine having a kid, let alone standing down one of the most racist, segregationist chief of police like Bull Connor. But this is who he was as a man, and he lived a very short life, but a very big life. And I want us all to remember him, not for the bullshit that the GOP, and honestly some Democrats too. We'll get into his one of my favorite quotes of him about the white moderate from his letter from Birmingham jail. But he absolutely stood for a liberation for everyone, and dare I say, runs against the Christian theology. And some say that Martin Luther King was not a Christian, that he didn't believe in Jesus either existing, or two, that he was this entity that was on this earth and will be coming back. But he just used kind of the shape and form of Christianity to preach a politics and a liberatory thinking within people who have been indoctrinated for hundreds of years at that point and still are. And I thought that's a really interesting take. I don't know how true that is. I mean, I know he got his master's in in seminary and all that good stuff and all those things in theology. So, but he could have been just an academic that used his perch as with inside the church to teach and preach liberations. Very similar to, ironically, to our broader story of how white churches use their churches as vehicles to indoctrinate and teach political ideologies of how to maintain the status quo and how to maintain this, if something happens to people out there, that is their moral failing. And Martin Luther King taught Black people from the pulpit and in the poorest of communities. He went to Puerto Rico, he went to Cuba, he went to India, he went to these places where there was the dregs of society, right, Western white society, and taught them or learned from them or engaged with them, exchanged ideas with them, that it does not have to be this way. It does not have to be this way, and we are all capable of fighting for our own liberation within our own spheres. We can all resist. Um, and ultimately we know how he perished. And I do think it's interesting that a lot of the right wingers love to say, well, Martin Luther King wouldn't have liked this, even though Martin Luther King himself railed against white people speaking for black people. And we're often told, well, you should protest like this, and you should protest like that. You should be more like Martin Luther King. They're telling us to be like someone who white supremacy ultimately murdered. So when we're thinking about these figures within the Black radical tradition and how they ended up, think about the end of their life. Yes, think about their broader impact to society, but think about how they were used, not necessarily used, but how they were treated and dispensed of by our society, by our culture, by our leaders, and now are just used as basically, placeholders for values that they do not live up to. Because they're very big to say, I judge you off the character. I don't judge you off your skin color. I don't judge you off your skin color. I judge you off the character of your content, or the content of your character. I'm getting all mixed up, y'all. I don't judge you off your skin color. I judge you off the content of your character. But in reality, it's like the content of your character is ass. The content of your character is racist. The content of your character is sexist, homophobic, xenophobic, violent, murderous, rapist, rapacious. And I don't need to, and I'm judging you off that. I'm judging you off what you defend. I'm judging you off what you denounce. I'm judging you off what you stand next to. I judge you off of all of those things. And and I think as we're sitting here trying to think about the legacy of someone who was so important, that we have a whole Black version of Happy Birthday thanks to Stevie Wonder. I just want us to remember he was more than just those two quotes. And I have a clip here of these are some quotes that we don't usually get from the Republicans, but I thought it's very apt to play the day after. This is very good.
Here are 5 MLK quotes that you won't see politicians posting today. Number 1, capitalism has outlived its usefulness. This country has socialism for the rich, rugged individualism for the poor. Number 2, we must see now that the evils of racism, economic exploitation, and militarism are all tied together. You can't get rid of one without getting rid of the others. Number 3, we have deluded ourselves into believing the myth that capitalism grew and prospered out of the Protestant ethic of hard work and sacrifices. The fact is that capitalism was built on the exploitation and suffering of Black slaves and continues to thrive on the exploitation of the poor, both Black and white, both here and abroad. Number 4, I am now convinced that the simplest approach will prove to be the most effective. The solution to poverty is to abolish it directly by a now widely discussed measure, the guaranteed income. And number 5, exploitation. A nation that feels it can solve its problems only by building up military defenses and going to war is ultimately a nation approaching spiritual death. America must learn that to gain the world and lose its soul is the greatest of all dangers.
So there you have it. Those are just 5 of his fantastic writings. If you guys haven't studied much of Martin Luther King, a good entry point, of course, is his letter from a Birmingham jail, and his final book, Community or Chaos, Where We Headed Now. He's a brilliant writer, a brilliant thinker, someone who used his life to help liberate everyone. And as we're at a moment with these we're seeing a lot of milquetoast politicians, definitely, in the Republican Party, they're all cucks. These are all people who are, obsequious and bending over to Donald Trump, and they're just ultimately trying to give him what he wants. And it's and then on the other side, you have Democrats who are even more milquetoast, right? Because they are ultimately not interested in pushing back or even retaining or taking power. And that is something that I think is disappointing to a lot of Democratic voters, or even if you're not a Democratic voter, just someone who ultimately doesn't align with white supremacy, doesn't align with the the white nationalist of the day. And that is what is really infuriating because I played last week. Governor Walz, excuse me, Mayor Tim Walz, Governor Walz. Good God, yeah, trying to get through the sickness. Governor Walz, and he's sitting there saying, "This is what Donald Trump is doing, and this is how terrible he is." But he's ultimately not going to call the National Guard. Then he did call the National Guard, but we're still kind of iffy about what that means. Then we had Mayor Frey of Minneapolis, and he's sitting there saying, "Go home, damn it. We don't need this. We don't need this." And dare I say, from top to bottom, leadership has been horrendous. And this is why we've seen pushback from the streets. We had Kara Ordonez on, on our last episode, our last larger episode, and she's a local organizer. She's an activist. She's out there on the streets. She's getting her community together, and she's teaching them how to protect themselves, how to protect their children, and and every time you stand up against these fascists, she's showing them, and every time, I don't care if you're in Minneapolis or Monroe, every time you stand up for your humanity, you are asserting your humanity, because they're trying to dehumanize all of us. In the exact minute you put your head down and you cow, they win, because these are small men. I say it all the time. These are insecure, pathetic, pink-armed, white supremacist bitches, including the Black ones, including the Latino ones, including the Asian ones. They are all fighting, supposedly in their minds, fighting for a cause that will not even serve them. So every time you push back, every time you fight back, every time you educate yourself, every time you rest, every time you find joy, every time you're able to read a book, anytime you're able to look them in the eye, let them know they're nothing. Because cowards cover their face. But with that being said, as I talk about, these milquetoast politicians and their inability to really do anything, MLK warned us about this. In his letter from Birmingham jail, he says, "First, I must confess that over the last few years, I have been gravely disappointed with the white moderate." In modern term, that would be the white liberal. "I have been gravely disappointed with the white moderate. I have almost reached the regrettable conclusion that the Negro's greatest stumbling block in the stride toward freedom is not the white citizen's counselor or the Ku Klux Klaner, but the white moderate, who is more devoted to order than to justice, who prefers a negative peace, which is the absence of tension, to a positive peace, which is the presence of justice, who constantly says, 'I agree with you in the goal you seek, but I cannot agree with your methods of direct action,' who paternalistically feels he can set a timetable for another man's freedom, who lives by the myth of time, and who constantly advises the Negro to wait for a more convenient season." That is what we're seeing within the Democratic Party. Whether it be in leadership, elected office, it's white moderates up and down, and white liberals. And white liberals, unfortunately, they're unwilling to listen to people of color who have fought back against this, who have a playbook, who have won, right? Because when people say, all we have to do is just vote this out, I try to remind people, when they say, well, the most radical thing you can do, Payron, is vote. Then I say, well, how did Black people get the right to vote? How did women get the right to vote? They didn't just vote themselves and then they got the right to vote. You have to take radical action. You have to be willing to stand for something. And then rights expand, right? But a lot of the times we're being told by people who are unwilling to listen to our Black and brown brothers and sisters, our LGBTQ brothers and sisters, our immigrant brothers and sisters, who have decades upon decades upon decades. And I think what it comes down to is our white brothers and sisters have never had to fight for their lives in this system of white supremacy. They've never had to actively fight for their own lives. So now they're sitting here, they think, well, in the boardroom, this works, but I'm trying to get a deal with Phil over the other company. So if I sit here and I'm nice to him, we go out for drinks. That is how it works within a capitalistic system. We just give you 5 quotes from MLK. We are talking about liberation. We are talking about freedom from oppression. So I really hope, folks have had a chance to sit with the words of Martin Luther King. I can't want to call him his original name, Michael King, and actually, let that stuff soak in. And it's okay if you don't know. But I guarantee you, there's someone around you that has told you the truth about what the fuck is going on. And let's say you're a part of that as a white person. Let's say they said, hey, man, like, honestly, I'm not around a bunch of MAGA because I'll give my example a lot. Like, I'm not around a bunch of MAGA people or, right wingers, white supremacists, like devout, like, David Dukes, Stephen Miller types every day of my life. So all the racism I have experienced has been from people that saw themselves to be good, because within white supremacy culture, purity politics is very important. And the idea that I'm always right and I must teach you because you're the savage, you're the black, you're the brown, you're the native, you're the queer, you're the whatever. And this is when we talk about the inability to connect one's plight towards our broader freedom because you're so stuck on being right. And one thing my grandmother taught me, she said, Peyron, always be wary of those who would rather be right than alive. And right now, white America is waking up. They've been wrong a long time. And waking up means being woke, right? All right, so moving on. Over the weekend, we had some crazy shit happen in Minneapolis. And honestly, it's a long story. It kind of goes ebbs and flows. I started following, I've been following for a while, but I was following his recent endeavors, Jolly Good Ginger. If you guys don't follow him on Instagram and social media, it's Jolly Good Ginger. He's a white co-conspirator. Like, we don't need white allies no more. He is a white co-conspirator. He's going to put himself into the fray. He's going to put himself between the state and the vulnerable. He's going to make sure he looks power in the eye and tells the truth. So he was in Minneapolis. He's been at the Whipple building, which is the federal building named after, I think, this like preacher back during the time of the largest lynching, the Lakota 38, and he actually got Abraham Lincoln to bring the number of lynchings down from over 100 to 38. But the building's actually named after him because he was basically this person of peace. So he's been at the Whipple building for a while. He's been getting tear gassed and sprayed, and he's been really tying it together of how what we're seeing on social media doesn't do justice as to the true war zone that ICE and CBP and the Trump administration writ large is rotting on the citizens of Minneapolis and St. Paul. So that's been happening. So he's good buddies with Don Lemon. Don Lemon, he was going out there. Actually, let me backtrack. I'm sorry. Let me backtrack. So he's been Jolly Good Ginger has been letting us know what the hell's been going on. Footage, him spitting, you motherfuckers, you stupid, you wearing that army suit. That's my suit. He's been doing He's been doing the things that we want the whites to do. So, of course, this creates a counter-protest, right? A counter-protest movement. And a devout white supremacist, I think his name is Jacob Lang. Fuck him. Jeremy Lang, a piece of shit. This piece of shit kid, he was a January 6er, pardoned by Trump, of course. And he's been terrorizing people ever since. He said he was going to go down to the city council building and burn Qurans, because we know there's a large Somali population. Again, don't forget, all of this is because of the racist lies spread by that little piece of shit Nick Shirley, who was lying on Somali immigrants to create this surge of 2,000 plus ICE agents. So this fucking asshole, Jake Lang's down there, and he truly believes. I think he's really drinking the Kool-Aid of, like, he's up there like pouring on himself the white supremacy juice, where he feels like he's a member of a master race. Minneapolis didn't have that. They weren't having that shit. They said, listen, we're going to tell you something about Minneapolis and who the fuck we are. And it didn't go well for him. It did not go well for your boy. Here's a clip here of this white supremacist, this January 6er, who thought he was going to burn Qurans and tell these brown and black people to go back to their countries. And this is a white man's land. And it did not work out well. Yikes. So I would want to be that. And you see how he's sitting there, and he's a virgin, of course. And he's sitting there, spread eagle, saved by a black man, saved by a black Muslim man. And then he gets immediately swallowed into the crowd, right? Just like a undertow into the ocean. But not only that, this guy who then, he runs away, saved by the people that he says are not human beings, who have the compassion even for a white supremacist. And this happens way too many times. Don't forget, Botham Jean's sister hugged the murderer of him. He was sitting on his couch eating ice cream, and this white police officer shot him on his couch and murdered him. And this happens way too many times. But it is interesting. It is interesting because we've always had the humanity. As Toni Morrison said, I've always had the moral high ground over a racist. So he gets sucked in. Not only does he get saved by a black man, not only does he get saved by a black brother, a brother that he would call a nigger, because he actually doubled down on this afterwards on Alex Jones. I don't have the clip, but you guys can find it. But not only did he get saved immediately from a black man, but it gets worse for the right-wing cause of who are the most violent and disrupting people in society. Check this shit out.
I have another hilarious update to this whole saga. It turns out this little Nazi boy who pissed his pants begged 2 women, please, please, please drive me away. They're gonna hurt me. Please drive me away. And I have the video for you.
He's so lucky we stopped for him. He's so lucky we did not know who he was, because I'm sorry, but like, you're for the streets. We're letting the wolves have you next time.
We'll look from in here and watch you get beat up and then go along our way and not be a part of this.
Yes, like what?
So this is how it started.
Immigrant scum! Anchor baby, violent migrants! Look what they do! We have the right to assemble peacefully! Do not assault my peaceful protesters! Do not assault us! We have a First Amendment right in this country! We will not be intimidated! We will not be shut down! We will not be intimidated! We will not be shut down! We will not be intimidated! Go, brother, go! Just go!
He was escorted out by several people of color, one of whom was also a Muslim.
Let him go! Hey, go, brother, go! Just go! Just go! Let him go, y'all! Let him go!
He got chased through this hotel, and that's when he got into the women's car.
This guy, still don't even know his full name. Jake is all I know. And apparently
He's a horrible freaking person.
The horrible people that apparently I'm sure a lot of you guys do know about, but I had never heard of him. We see him run up to our car and he's like, can I please get in? Can I please get in? Like, they hurt me so bad, da 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 da. That's all the context we have. So in our heads, it's like, oh my god, like, was he just attacked by ICE? Like,
we thought ICE was after him, so we're like, okay, whatever, like, hop in the freaking car real quick. And then all of a sudden, there's a whole bunch of people coming here and storming us and, like, beating up the car, ruining the car, pulling this dude out. Like, what is going on?
Surrounding the car from every single angle.
So we literally just go around the block, and I'm like, you know what, like, you need to get out.
Yeah, we're still in the same spot.
What is going on? Like, whose side are you on right now? Because, like, this is not okay. And I'm just getting super weird, bad vibe from this dude. And he's just like, oh, Trump something me. I gotta owe him back. And I'm just like,
yeah, he was
I don't care what Trump did for you. Like, ICE is fucking shit. Like, who are you? Like, who are you? And then I find out who he is. I'm like, I don't care if your Uber's here. You're not gonna wait in my fucking car. You need to get out right now.
If you happen to see us, please know that we do not support this man whatsoever.
ICE needs to leave literally the whole country.
You ain't got like people with you. Why was he like literally by himself? Like, what? I don't even.
Stupid.
What is the thought process there?
Because he's stupid and he likes attention and he thinks it's cool.
As fuck.
Love that. Love the dolls save the day. Inadvertently, they didn't mean to save the day, but they saved the day. And I'm sure this is someone that was like, trans people, because there's a woman and her trans friend, I mean, both women, but still, just to clarify, it's very important that we put an exclamation point that it was a trans woman that was a part of his rescue of his white supremacists, as a trans woman was there to make sure, even though they didn't know who he was, but that's just who, again, in their body. And I also notice they're both minorities, people who are under threat of what Jake Lang, this January 6er, this ICE lover, this bootlicker, of the state. I'm sure back in 2020, he said, you know, the government can't tell me wear a mask, but now it's like the government can tell you if you don't get out your car, we got to kill you. He's one of these people. Got the TI hat thing going on here. And he actively was saved by a black man, a black Muslim man. He's going to go burn the Quran on the steps. Saved by a black Muslim man, and then ran for safety and security and cover and refuge with two women. I'm sure he's sexist, both being minorities, because you know he's racist, and one being trans. I mean, it is a complete like Charlotte's Web of genius of like how karma is a bitch, and he's the bitch. He's a pink arm bitch. So moving on, Don Lemon. Going back to Don Lemon, he lands in Minneapolis. He's talking to folks where we're going to be at. You know what's going on. He finds a woman named, I think her name is Kia. She is a or Nakia, excuse me. She's a civil rights activist. She's an attorney by day, and she's been doing this activism work for years. She's been doing this stuff since 2020. Because don't forget, Minneapolis, home of where George Floyd was murdered, Philando Castile. So she's been doing this activism work for a very, very long time. So he goes, she meets up with them, and she says, we're going to go to this church. We found this pastor named David Easterman. He is the regional field director for ICE, and he's a pastor. Would you look at that? I think Rage Against the Machine had a line about that. The same people that run forces also burn crosses. Wow, who could have thunk that there's a pastor who is also part of the fascist regime that is targeting black and brown people? Nobody could have figured that out. So Don Lemon says, all right, I'm going to go. So here's a clip of Don Lemon going to City's Church in the St. Paul area of Minnesota.
What do you think of this? I mean, this is unacceptable. It's shameful. It's shameful to interrupt a public gathering of Christians in worship.
But there were folks who will say,
I have to take care of my flock.
okay, but listen, we live there's a constitution in the First Amendment to freedom of speech and freedom to assemble and protest.
Yeah. We're here to worship. We're here to worship Jesus because that's the hope of these cities. That's the hope of the world is Jesus Christ.
I want to be very respectful. Please don't push me though.
We're here to worship Jesus.
Yes.
That's why we're here.
Yes.
Okay. That's why we're here. Okay. That's what we're about.
Don't you think Jesus would be understanding
we're about
and love these folks?
We're about spreading the love of Jesus.
But did you try to talk to them as a Christian?
No one is willing to talk.
Okay.
I have to take care of my church and my family, so I asked that you actually would also leave this building.
You don't want us to chronicle what happened?
Unless you're here to worship.
I'm always worship. I'm a Christian.
We're here to worship. Yeah. We're here to worship. Okay.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Sorry, I'm still trying to get the technology figured out here, folks. No, but you know, so there you go. Don Lemon, very respectful. There's other clips of him saying countless times, hey, I'm a journalist. I'm not with these people. I'm here to just document, right? I'm here to just make sure that I'm chronicling the current history being written right now. And that was, of course, seen as normal. We've seen that all the time, from whether it be back in the civil rights movement, whether it be the women's rights movement, whether it be the Stonewall riots, whether it be any the Black Lives Matter. There's always journalists who are going to be close to what's going on, whether it be international. And of course, the right wing cannot seem to actively, and you guys, if you guys saw any of the other clips, I'm not going to play it all just for time's sake. But no one was pushed. If you could find where someone was, in fact, the only person pushed was Don in that clip saying, "Please don't push me," right? And that was not Dave Easterman. I think that was one of the other pastors. And I have a picture here of Dave Easterman, just so you know, because we need to know what these guys look like. Let's see here. I got an image of Dave Easterman, just a handsome fella. When you see him, you're like, good God, look at this guy. Oh my God, a face only a Klan mother would love. There we go. Here's Dave Easterman. Just in case you guys were like, okay, is he the sexiest man of the year? Clearly. Does it look like his teeth are falling out of his mouth? Yes. Is he clearly a racist? Yes. But you know what? You know what, folks? He is also a pastor. he is also a pastor. And he wants you to know that he doesn't want anybody out there to feel like that they can't just put on a mask and go stomp out an abuela or go throw some black kids down some stairs or shoot a white woman in the face, because that's what Jesus would want. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. So I think Don did what was right. I think these protesters did what was right. I think they used their constitutional rights to be able to assemble and be able to push back. And, you know, I think they're really upset with Don because I think that, one, he's black gay man and he has a large platform, cool people like him, you know, and they don't know what else to do with that. So they say so then there was this larger response to it. The Department of Justice said that they are going to formally, and they haven't done this yet, formally charge Don Lemon with the Ku Klux Klan Act. Here is undercover DL Queen, Benny Johnson. If you guys don't know Benny Johnson, he's a right-wing podcaster, right-wing influencer paid by Russia. That has been confirmed. He didn't know he was paid by Russia. And and of course, all of his talking points were aligning with Russian talking points before the 2024 election. And but he's also one of those guys, he's all about the sanctity of Christ and the nuclear family and a man and a woman. But yet his wife says that he can't go on business trips alone because he's always known for hooking up with dudes. And he even outed himself one time on the show. This is just all on the side. I just got to kind of give you guys the color of who this guy I'm about to show you is. That he was on a show one day and he's like, what's wrong with the woke Google or the woke Instagram? I'm getting these ads for gay cruises. These gay cruises. Why is the woke ads sending me ads for gay cruises? Don't they know I'm not woke? It's like, dude, have you never heard of targeted advertising? Do you not know it's based on what you search for is what pops up on your feed? Do you not realize you're telling on yourself? I digress. Same thing with MAGA Mike Johnson and these other folks out here who are all closet DL queens, like, Lady G, Lindsey Graham, all these folks. I'm sure this is why every time there's a Republican convention, Grindr shuts down because there's too many hits. There's too many stories of these guys, right? But here is Benny Johnson talking to Harmeet Dillon, who is, I guess, the head of the Civil Rights Division in the DOJ, which means that, again, I'm sure y'all saw that ad for, are you a white man and do you need help? This is what they want to stand for. So here is Harmeet Dillon, and is really ridiculous.
Can you give me an update on this post, Harmeet?
Well, yes, actually, I posted that from an airplane, and Pam Bondi and my boss, had already been in touch about this incident, what we're going to do about it. And so I'm working hand in hand with her. We have sent federal prosecutors last night from my office in D.C. to Minnesota. They should be landing any moment now. We activated the FBI and the U.S. Attorney's Office as well. And this has the highest attention of the Attorney General and my Department of Justice team, because it is, as you said in your intro, this isn't actually a question of whether we're going to stand for it. We don't stand for it in this country. And not every case that we do at the DOJ gets the headlines, but we've already prosecuted numerous attacks on churches so far in the last 9 months since I took office under Pam Bondi's leadership. We are investigating multiple attacks on synagogues. It is evil to attack any house of worship in America. It is illegal. And what I saw yesterday made me ashamed, frankly, for the United States, that we have an Attorney General in Minnesota, Keith Ellison, a District Attorney, Mary Moriarty, a Mayor, Jacob Fry, and Tim Waltz, Tampon Tim, who absolutely refuse to enforce our state laws. Their own state laws prohibit this very conduct. Well, if they're not going to enforce their laws, we will enforce our federal laws, and we are already doing that. And so, as you know, and as people have said, the prior administration prosecuted people under the FACE Act for peacefully praying outside abortion clinics where unborn children were being killed inside. Now, that's protected by federal law. That's up to Congress. However, that same law gives us the right at the Department of Justice to prosecute the same kind of conduct vis-a-vis any house of worship. And there's been a lot of talk of the First Amendment thrown around. The First Amendment includes the right to pray without interference. It includes the right of these people to not have so-called journalists and a mob of activists disrupt their sacred day of prayer. And so, as far as I can tell, these very foolish people have already, many of them self-identified online as to who they were. They posted who their accomplices were. Don Lemon has made numerous admissions online as to his participation here and his intention and his knowledge of what was going to happen inside that sacred place. And so we're gathering the facts, and there will be action here. I know people are frustrated. Where are the arrests, et cetera? Let me explain that for you and your team, Benny, because state prosecutors could have arrested some of these people yesterday. They don't have some of the same hurdles that we do in the DOJ. When DOJ, we gather our facts, we go to a federal judge.
All right, shut the fuck up. God, so fucking ridiculous. And this is all red meat for people who are already ignorant. And when you think that any sort of bit of inconvenience is, I mean, we're gonna get to a point where inconvenience is a terroristic threat to white people. I mean, we already know that as Black people, right? This is why, prior to the 1965 64 Civil Rights Act, you had to step off the street if a white person was coming. You had to say yes, sir, no, ma'am. You had to go to a different bathroom. You had to go to a separate school. You had to work a servile job. You had to be a Pullman porter, right? You had to scrub floors. Our Latino brothers and sisters know that they're brought over there during the Bracero program, and then deported back on Operation Wetback to pick this, do that, all these different things, right? Because they never wanted to look us in the eye. So any sort of inconvenience is treated like violence. Eventually, we're going to get to a point to protest will be if you just have a light on. If you have your light on, that is going to be your symbol of protest. That's how far they want to take this stuff to. I'm not saying this to put fear in your heart. I'm letting you all know they don't realize that, or they do realize that. And I think they don't understand why they have lost the narrative, why they have lost control. They have lost the demographic changes. So they're trying everything within their institutional power to control culture. But the one thing about this country, for all its flaws, what it is that it is a group of, groups of different types of people. We're not homogenous. So trying to clamp down with an old tool over new people will not work in the long run. Will some people be harmed? Absolutely. Will some people be killed and some people be spirited away? Absolutely. But like, as we were talking with Kara on Sunday, like this is not the time to cower. This is not the time to be afraid. This is not a time not to post something. At this point, what is the majority of Americans are against ICE? The majority, including Republicans, are against what ICE is doing. So why are you not talking about it? Why are you not making it look fucking ridiculous? These people themselves are embarrassed to be a part of ICE. These people are fucking wearing masks. Jonathan Ross, who shot Renee Good, told his neighbor that he was a botanist for over a decade. Over a decade. Here's some IMs here. I'm going to go into this. They hate they can't get Don fired. Correct. He's independent, like us. I mean, shout out to us. Throw us a couple dollars. Ding. Throw us a couple dollars. I'm going to leave that up. But yeah, they're mad that they can't get rid of Don Lemon. Right? How dare this uppity? I mean, it's the uppity Negro syndrome. How dare you? And you're queer. And you're famous. And you're funny. Who doesn't love a good New Year's Eve drunk Don Lemon? And his mess ups, like this one this past year where his mic was upside down. Hilarious. He jumped out of the cake. We love Don Lemon. Has he always been on the right side of every single issue? No. But now that those CNN chains are off him, he's more free. He's telling it like it is. We got La Renee Taylor says she's a Lemonhead, and she stands with Don Lemon. I stand with Don Lemon. I'm sure if you're a part of the Radical Roots community, you're absolutely part of the Lemonhead community. If you're not, go join that. Go join that. What else we got here? So I also wanted to read to you guys. Let me pull this up here. Sorry, guys. Okay. I also wanted to read to you all what the Ku Klux Klan Act is. This is what they're trying to charge Don Lemon with. Okay, so here we go. The Anti-Klan Act of 1870 refers to the Enforcement Act of 1870. The first of 3 Reconstruction era laws. This is post the Civil War. This is back when Black people were asserting our rights constitutionally. And we got the 13th, 14th, 15th Amendment, which basically made us full people. Passed to protect Black voting rights and enforce the 15th Amendment, making it a federal crime to interfere with suffrage voting through violence or intimidation, expanding federal court power, and allowing the president to use troops to enforce civil rights against groups like the Ku Klux Klan. Key aspects of the Enforcement Act of 1870: purpose to combat violence and intimidation of groups like the Klan that sought to prevent African Americans from voting after the Civil War. Provisions: banned discrimination of state officials in voter registration, established penalties, fines, jail time for interfering with voting rights, expanded federal court jurisdiction, and authorized the president to use the army to uphold the law. This is what they want to charge Don Lemon. Okay? This is what they want to charge the man with. Does it make sense, folks? Absolutely not. But do they have to make sense? No. Does racism make sense? No. Does white supremacy make sense? No. Does misogyny, all the ogenies, isms, and phobias, do any of those make sense? No. But this is what they're planning on charging Don Lemon with. And I'm quite sure this will be thrown out. I'm sure people will look at this and be like, yeah, I'm sure that judge will, with any worth their salt, will say this is absolutely not worth convicting John Lemon. I'm sure he has a good attorney, and he's going to be able to. It's going to be like water off a duck's back. But this is the extent MAGA and honestly right wingers have, because in their minds they think winning an election is winning the hearts and minds of the people. 35% of Americans voted for Donald Trump. But in their minds, they equate institutional power with cultural power. This is why prior to the Civil Rights Act, you had famous people, Black people, that like we knew we were in a fucked up situation, but we were going to find joy. We were going to dance. We were going to travel. We were going to do what. This is why you had during the Great Depression. You also had the Harlem Renaissance. Because we know we were the only group of people, I say it all the time on the show, we're the only group of people that did not ask to be here. So we're going to make the best of any situation. And what they're mad about is they feel like they could just impose their violence on all of us. They can impose their violence on all of us, and they want us to like them still. That's what all this is about. These are perpetually stuck 9th graders that, that Cindy in 8th grade didn't like me, but now they're big boys. They're big boys. They don't got the big job. They can't afford the big house with the 2-car garage and go on 3 vacations with 2.5 kids. So they're upset. And the thing about a demagogue can, like Trump or Hitler, they can always identify your problem. They can always say, yes, your money isn't going as far as it did last year. Yes, you know, there is a crisis of men because you just want to punch a bitch every once in a while. You just want to rape somebody every once in a while. And they're like, yeah. But realizing that's why you're lonely. You want to just string up a nigger every once in a while. They're like, yeah, I want to string up a nigger. That's why people don't like you. That's why there's other whites out here that Black people and Latino people and Asian people fuck with. And it ain't you. There's a reason why you and your bullshit Captain Lockjaw, if y'all saw one battle after another, Captain Lockjaw haircuts are a bunch of incel losers. I'm not the best looking guy. I've never had a problem with the ladies prior to getting married. This is what they can't grapple with. That I have a shitty personality. In fact, I have no personality. My identity is around this whining, dying, melting pumpkin whose hair is like spun sugar and whose brain's leaking out of his ears, who wears lifts in his shoes and long ties, and he's dressed in drag. He's a tough guy to me. And most women who are smart, capable, brilliant, genius, strong, powerful, they see men like that. And they're like, you know what? Go to fucking hell. Go to fucking hell. And so the fact that these people feel like that they are empowered to run roughshod over Don Lemon, who was a journalist, using his First Amendment right and freedom of the press. Don't forget, Amy Coney Barrett, our Supreme Court justice, could not list the 5 freedoms of the First Amendment. Freedom of the press, freedom of speech, freedom of religion, or freedom of religion, or freedom from religion, freedom to gather, and freedom to protest your government. She didn't know that, and she got confirmed. I'm just putting that out there. The Supreme Court justice that took away rights of 51% of the American population, women, did not know the 5 freedoms of the First Amendment. Just letting y'all know that. But it gets even sicker. It gets even sicker. It gets even sicker. What's it Renee here? They are truly brainwashed, and it will take a while for them to come to terms with who they are. They may never come to terms. They may die. That video of Jake Lang earlier going to Minneapolis was proof. They will die for this shit. They will die for the cause of how many white men have. Look at Timothy McVeigh. That was supposed to be a suicide as well. Blowing up the federal building with that daycare of kids in it. But Black people and Latino people and Somali people, these are the worst people. Don't forget, they will die for this shit. January 6th. Ashley Babbitt. She didn't comply. She didn't listen to law enforcement. So I don't know if they'll come around, Renee. I hear you. I don't expect them to. And it's the responsibility of white America to change that shit. I can't change it. My co-host Rom, he can't change that shit. My wife can't change that shit. My friends out there can't change that shit. This is a white people problem. It's always been a white people problem. Unfortunately, that's just the reality. That's actually not unfortunately. It's the truth. All we can do is keep speaking truth to power. And as long as we have politicians like Cory Booker and Chuck Schumer and potentially Roy Cooper who are going to say that ICE just needs to be reformed around the edges, that means that they're taken from the premise that ICE is still good. The foundational premise of what they're saying is ICE is still needed. ICE is still needed. These are people that must go. Because if you can kick in my door and you're going to give me some bullshit that I need to hear, that I need to see, I need to be fearful of that as an American citizen or as not an American citizen, get the fuck out of here. These corporatized Dems, because don't forget these prisons and these detention centers, they lobby Congress. They pay off politicians. That's what the fucking problem is. So you get these fucking mealy-mouthed double speak, and they're all fucking attorneys, so they all have great speech and they're really good selling your shit. You know, you don't got to take them back to law school, but guess what? That's why they're so eloquent at selling you bullshit. And we as the people deserve and demand to have a better future for us and our children. I don't give a fuck who you are. If you got a D, R, blue, but Perron used to be the chair of the Democratic Party, and I saw the racism there. Again, the racism that I dealt with wasn't with the MAGAs. Yes, that I did with some MAGAs, but I wasn't around the MAGAs all day. I saw the level, the water's edge of what white America was able to deal with by me just trying to teach them basic things about civics and politics and history and how it interplays with people who are not white. And they couldn't stand that shit. Couldn't stand it. So at the end of the day, it doesn't change the fact that this is a white people problem that y'all got to solve. We're going to defend ourselves. We're going to educate ourselves. You know, Kara here, who again guest on Sunday. ICE has to go, and anyone who is in office defending it needs to go. Was that clock it? Isn't that what they say? Clock it. They got to go. Got to go, bro. This shit that Shrek is older than. Shrek's older than ICE. Okay, the movie Shrek is older than ICE. That shit is not some long term. It's been here since the Constitution. The people that keep saying they're selling you that please believe in this shit. Please believe in the Constitution. The Constitution didn't mean shit to us when we were 3/5. The Constitution didn't mean shit to Japanese people pushed into internment camps. The Constitution didn't mean shit to Puerto Ricans who were sterilized. So we have some acting like this document is like it's etched in fucking diamond. No, in fact, Elie Mystal, who I played his clip at the end of my last episode, said that any law that was passed prior to 1965 needs to be thrown away. And I agree with him. Is if you think about it, all those laws were created without our consideration. Even though we lived here, paid taxes here, lynched here, burned here, murdered here, shot up here, all kind of shit, raped, sold children here, reservations, all these laws. So when you hear these people, well, I'm a legal scholar, those are just the rules of our oppressor. Those are just, when you say, well, I'm a lawyer, and even some black lawyers, and I get it because that's your identity. You went to school, you make good money, but your identity is only solidified around the rules of your oppressor. And so in between those four corners of those pieces of paper, instead of realizing these things will not free us. And until we say we have to unlearn white supremacy. Getting a shout out there, Karen. Until you unlearn white supremacy, until this country faces it, and we're seeing the long tail of that come back, we're not going to be able to progress. So, just to take it to the logical conclusion here, where we started the weekend of Martin Luther King weekend with Jolly Good Ginger yelling at the Whipple building, again named after a man who was in defense of the Lakota during the time of colonization, who were pushed onto concentration camps, to Jake Lang, the January 6er, saying he was going to go burn Qurans, to getting his ass whooped by the community. It was a community ass whooping. You know how there's like a community kitchen or there's like a community library? That was a community ass whooping. And yes, you have the freedom of speech. And these right-wingers, they always pervert it. They think the freedom of speech means I can say whatever I want. Yes, you can say whatever you want. It means that you can say whatever you want about the government. And the government cannot stop you from speaking badly about the government. That's the point of the First Amendment. It doesn't mean you can't catch these hands. It doesn't mean that you won't get your ass whooped for saying the wrong shit. There's people out there. We just talked about how Jacob Lang and these other white supremacists will die for white supremacy. I know plenty of Negro that will go to jail for you saying the N-word to them. I know women that will slap you in the fucking face and not think twice about their cop being there because you called her a B. Okay, so like this is what they've taught these immature and insecure white boys. They're like, the First Amendment is you say whatever you want. Yeah, you're learning it the wrong way, brother. You're learning it the wrong way. You can say what you want, but so can I. And if what I say hurts your feelings, that's a fucking you problem. And if you then take that violent rhetoric and say things about, I mean, some folks that, don't talk about my mama. We don't get into a fight, right? So he's up there burning Qurans, and you think these folks, they ain't the government. These are people that are devoted to their religion, devoted to their people. And you want to disrespect them? You can tell he never been in a fist fight. You can tell he never had his ass whooped. And he learned that day. And then he's on Alex Jones afterwards saying, and Alex Jones was like, even Alex Jones from InfoWars, the water turned the frogs gay. Alex Jones said that I can't believe that it was a black man and some women and some queers that saved you. We have to. Maybe they're turning. The triple the amount of Latinos went for Trump in 2024. We got to give them some. Maybe the times are turning. And Jake Lang, post ass whooping, says these people are still the bottom of the barrel. These people, I'm not genuflecting to them, Alex. And Alex Jones is like, all right, dude. Like, I think Alex Jones is like, bro, I think you're missing what I'm fucking saying here. I'm trying to pull it. I'm trying to help you get anybody. Like, no, because they're petulant children. They're all Scott Jennings. Y'all know Scott Jennings from CNN. They're all Scott Jennings. They're all cross-armed and, no, I'm right, you're wrong. A key telltale sign of narcissism is being the victim and the hero simultaneously. I'm right because I'm white. I'm a white man. My penis is 1 inch long when it's hard. This is all they got. I'm hung like a clip. I'm mad. Women don't like me. Sucks. But to take it to pop culture as we finish up here, Nicki Minaj, she's been on a tear. She's been on a tear, guys. She's been doing fantastic work for the Can you believe this sector of the fucking news? But she somehow gets in this chat and calls for Don Lemon to be arrested. And Don Lemon responds. So I'm going to play the clip here of the response, but on his response is also her tweet. So I'm going to pause it in the beginning and read her tweet for folks who are just listening in on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. And then I'm going to let Don respond.
So people have been asking me about.
Okay. So she says, Don, these are her words, folks. She says, Don, quote, cocksucking Lemon is disgusting. How dare you? I want that thug in jail. He would never do that to any other religion. Lock him up. Now, the homophobia is in there. The anti-Black racism in there by calling him a thug. And you know, the love of the carceral system in the state, going to jail. What the fuck is wrong with her? And Don Lemon reads her rights. Y'all want to see a dead body?
So people have been asking me about responding to Nicki Minaj's unhinged homophobic tweet about me. I usually don't respond to this stuff, but let me just say this. Nicki Minaj, stop talking about shit for which you know nothing about. This is out of your depth, by the way, and you are a homophobic bigot. You don't care about African Americans, and you're not an African American. From what I know, you are reportedly an undocumented citizen, so you should be deported under Donald Trump's rules. And the other thing is that your family members, you have one family member who is reportedly a sex offender, the other family member, your husband or whatever, a sex offender is your husband, and one of them is reportedly a pedophile. Yikers. And you have nerve to talk about me and what you think that I do? Nicki Minaj, get a life. Stop being a pick-me. You should have put a pick-me doll on that damn tweet instead of a Chucky doll, because you are nothing but a pick-me. And I choose not to pick you. And so should Black people, and so should gay people. Shouldn't buy your music. Clock that.
I think what he really wanted to say was fuck you. Fuck you, Nicki Minaj. Kara, I think we're all thinking this. She working real hard for that pardon. Damn Skippy. She says, well, my brother's in jail and my husband is a registered sex offender. He can't go 100 yards until he can't drop my kid off at school. So Trump, I'm undocumented, but I hate immigrants. I mean, I'm a piece of shit. I'm self-hating. But what her whole purpose is, just like Stephen A. Smith, which I might get into on Thursday, and all the shit that he's been doing around, is that these people, when they lose relevance, when they lose the ability to control the masses, when they lose the ability to connect with those that built them up, that had their back when there was nothing. When Nicki Minaj was in Queens rapping, right, on a stoop on a Smack DVD. That's when I first seen her, when I was in college. She looked like she looked now, and her bars wasn't as bars as they are now, right? Is that when she loses that, she sees younger people who are doing different things, who are more inclusive, who are more open, who are doing the right things the right way. There's always a pivot to the right. There's always a pivot to the right. And I heard something a few months ago that's just stuck with me. It said, you're not, they're talking about Black and people of color conservatives or regressives. I don't call them conservatives because the opposite of progress is regress. And they said that you're not conservative. You're just seeking white approval. You are not conservative. You're just seeking white approval. That's what all this is. And you can say, oh, no, my daddy was conservative. Well, your daddy was also seeking white approval. My granddaddy said that it's just a man and a woman. Your daddy was taught by someone who was ignorant. We have to come to grips with that as marginalized and colonized people. We had all of our indigenous ways of knowing and movement and memory stripped from us, murdered from us, raped from us, taken from us, and had the had the standards and perspectives of our colonizers put in our minds. Nicki Minaj, Stephen A. Smith these are modern day minstrels. You don't got to do the blackface, boss. I will tell your racist audience who are now the ones supporting me. And I had to give this feedback when people were like, well, during the 2024 election about Mark Robinson running for governor. Like, people were literally, that's when I was the chair of the Democratic Party. People say, well, Payron, black people are going to vote for Mark Robinson because they're black. I said, you don't know anything about black people, do you? Because if you turn it around, if you turn that camera around when he's saying some folks need killing, don't forget Mark Robinson said that shit. Turn the camera around. Who's in that audience? It's all white people, predominantly white women, but predominantly it's all white people. Stephen A. Smith, Nicki Minaj, Mark Robinson, Tim Scott, Herschel Walker, Candace Owens say to white people what they want to hear to confirm their biases. Does that make sense? So when you hear like, oh, well, look, this person's with Trump, who gives a fuck? That is to assuage their base, to not feel like, oh, this motherfucker's racist. I'm a racist. I can't be racist. I like Candace Owens. My wife's stepfather sent her a video of Candace Owens a few years ago and said, she's got some good shit. You might want to listen to her. My wife immediately sliced his ass up. He's a white man. Sliced his ass up. It was like, she's a fucking racist. You're a fucking racist for saying this shit to me. That was the last time they talked. It is for white enjoyment. It is for white people to feel like, I can't be racist. Stephen A. Smith said Renee Good deserved to die. I can't be a fascist. Stephen A. Smith wouldn't do that. But it's the Upton Sinclair quote. A man, it's very difficult to get a man to understand when his salary is dependent on him not understanding. And Nicki Minaj, as to Kara's point, is working on that fucking pardon. And to me, it's embarrassing. I wouldn't marry a pedophile. And if my brother was a pedophile, fuck him. He deserves to be in jail. If my son, who's 10 years old, grew to be a fucking pedophile, yes, I would feel like a failure as a father, but ultimately, that's his fucking problem. He needs to go to fucking jail. He needs to deal with all this shit. And that's real. There's a certain level we have to be honest with ourselves and those within our circles. And I talked about earlier how white supremacy is purity culture. And we have to be willing to be like, you know what? There is this thing as pure. There's this thing as perfect. But what I will not stand for is injustice. And with that, folks, I will leave it here as we are winding down. We were well over my 30 minutes I wanted to go, but it was a lot of shit that happened this weekend. And I just want to touch on it. And there's other shit I didn't get to. But please make sure, and I love to see our favorites here. You know, am I saying, is it La Renee Taylor? Is that, am I saying it right? I'm sure. With a name like Payron, I'm very sensitive to people's names. Am I saying it right? And if you want to, you know, I don't, there's no like private chat, but if I'm saying it correctly, because I don't want to just keep calling you that. If I will, if it's okay, that's fine too. Gerald, what did he say here? He says, Nikki will learn just as Candace Owens learned. Facts. Once Candace Owens started talking about fucking Israel, she was on with Ben Shapiro, and she would talk about how the Jews are controlling the world and blah, blah, shit. Ben Shapiro was fine with that because that allowed the Daily Wire to make money with his white supremacist base. But the exact minute she started talking about Israel, that ass was grass. He was back with them Negroes. And now she's trying to make that pivot. But yeah, Kara, thank you so much. Rom, you know, our other folks. So it's been great. So folks, I was a little bit long today. Thanks for folks who stuck with me. And we're gonna be back on Thursday. I'm gonna show you some more shit that pops off. We got Greenland to talk about. And any other topics y'all want to talk about, please drop them in the chat and or send us a note to our DMs. I know Gerald's good at that. He sends us stuff on Instagram. So please, we are accessible. We're gonna have some guests on. I don't know if you guys follow Bull City Anna. We've had a back and forth with her, and I invited her on. In fact, it's kind of contentious, but I say, you know what? Come on the show. Let's talk about this. So if I can get her on, I got another activist, the LGBTQ activist, Chase. I'm going to try to bring him on this week. I just need to respond to him if he's on, but I'm going to try to get him on Friday. So yeah, guest ideas or anything, please let me know because this is what we need. Oh, hold on. Here we go. Larina. Is that right? Larina. Do I get that right? Larina. I'm going to say La Renee. Look at me. I ain't shit. La Renee. Now I see Lorena. Now I can see it. I can see it there. Lorena. But cool. Folks, thanks for staying this long. It's been great. And we'll see you all on Thursday. And, you know, they can do this to Don Lemon. They can do this to anybody. So I just want us to be thoughtful and mindful as we are going throughout the world and talk about this shit, please. And she says yes. I got it right. Lorena, I got it from now on. I got you, girl. But yeah, I will see y'all on Thursday. Keep up the good fight. Peace.